Hello, everyone. Welcome to Generic Anime Group podcast number 2. I am your host, Sam, and the rest of our brilliant podcasters are as...
Hello, my name is Edwin Thomas.
Hi, I'm Joey. I'm the other brother in Generic Anime Group.
Hi, I'm Noah.
I'm Sam, as I had said.
And hey everyone, I'm Tea Leaf, as you should know by now.
And do a brief accomplishment. Today we'll be talking about Harem or Ecchi. Everyone, do a briff qualification for what makes you qualified to talk about Harem or Ecchi anime today.
Are we also doing ecchi?
Both. I don't care. We're doing the sexy stuff.
Well, here. That's my qualification right there. I at least own a harem anime.
Oh,
so,
can anyone top that he owns a harem anime?
Wait.
Let's see.
Hold on, I'll top you.
Show.
Oh, wait, are we going to do a measuring contest now?
My qualification is ready? I own a Pokemon book. I am therefore qualified to talk about harem anime. There is no one sexier than a Pokemon wife.
That's not how that works, Sam.
There you go.
I
have Scott Pilgrim.
I don't know why you guys buy anime. I just freaking stream it on Crunchyroll or like.
That's a light
That's
novel.
another discussion.
Like devoting the money.
That's totally unrelated to this topic.
What? I don't know what you're talking about. I had a complete qualification.
Regardless, I've been watching anime for
actually
fucking long.
Regardless, T-Leaf, our resident anime expert, explain to our audience what the hell a harem anime is.
So, as far as I'm aware, this episode we're talking about harem animes, which is basically a subgenre of anime where you get one person who has multiple love interests that all end up together in this weird polycule of relationships.
Mostly a guy with a bunch of girls.
It's usually a guy with a bunch of girls. However, there is a very niche subgenre known as reverse harem, where it's one girl with a bunch of guys.
And there's an even more nicher one where it's all of them.
Yes.
It's basically just romance, though.
There are some weird harem animes where there are multiple harems that weirdly interact with each other, and then these relationships get very messy, but those are very niche. There's also the gay versions and the lesbian versions and whatnot, but again, those are super niche and not particularly relevant to mainstream anime or light novels or what have you.
All right. So, as I say, brilliant opener is also something that this is just something I personally run across, is there are some good harem animes. There are also some very, very bad harem anime. As I say, when it's good, but when it's bad, oof, it's bad, where it sometimes actually circles all the way back around to being good. So it's one of those.
I can't qualify harem animes as being either good or bad. I would more say that there are harem animes that are done well and harem animes that are executed poorly. Because the underlying idea is the same, but execution affect how good or bad it is. So it's more.
I'm gonna jump in there, T-Lee. I'm gonna jump in.
Or not, as a whole, is good or bad.
I'm gonna jump in there. There are one or two exceptions to that rule where it is a harem anime and it's considered good and it's considered mainstream and it is by true and large harem anime. You and I were talking earlier that what do you think about when we think of a good mainstream harem anime? And the first thing that you thought of, and I would agree with you on this, was Ouran High School Host Club.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to be frank with everyone.
Host Club is one of the most mainstream popular harem animes out there, even though it is considered a reverse harem. But go ahead and watch it.
I'm
I
actually
highly
going
recommend
to
it.
start our first topic of debate. I held off on this. I don't classify that as a harem anime. Sam's hot take. Because I think this is my personal thing. For it to be a harem anime, most of the cast has to be interested in the main character. And in Ouran High School Host Club, it's 2 at most. I forget the blonde guy's name off the top of my head, but it's one of the twins and the blonde guy. Like Honey's not interested at all. Honey's bodyguard, as I'll just call him, isn't interested, and the other twin's not interested. It's only 2 people, really.
No. There's the blonde guy, there's the 2 twins, and then at the very least, there's the vice president glasses guy.
I don't think he's in. I never got that vibe at all. I never got the vibe at all from the Shadow King boy.
Edwin, what's your take on this?
There are only a few reasons a high school guy is going to corner a girl in the middle of a hotel room.
Edwin,
I'm going to say
a one-off episode doesn't count.
Yeah.
Edwin, you had something.
I'm going to say
the entire anime is only 13 episodes long. Every episode does count.
Jaylee!
I'm taking your volume lower.
We know you don't like it. So what I'm going to say is, as a harem trope, I really dislike it. I find that harems are generally only enjoyed ironically. I can kind of get the general appeal, like on the most basic level. You know, you have a boring guy that has a bunch of people that are really into him. But at the bigger level, it's really awful because it's like to not satisfy you on any level, because none of the girls will ever get with the guy, or if they do, it's usually the worst choice. And it's not like an anime game where you can choose the person. So they have to make it so that everyone gets the wish, everyone who watches the anime has the same equal opportunity to get their love interest, which is none at all.
Pause on our Ouran High School Host School thing. This man is fucking right on that. It's never the person who you want who actually ends up with him. It's always the one you don't. Like, enough people here already know. We're not going to spoil it by saying what it is, but everyone knows the quintessential quintuplets is 100% harem anime, and they effed it up in the manga. Hopefully the anime gets it different, but everyone knows they fucked it up in the manga. I'm swearing. Fucked it up in the manga.
Noah, you've been very decidedly quiet so far. What's your take on some of the points that we've just said?
I think there's actually definitely a few harem anime where they do choose somebody, and it is one of the more popular choices. None of them are coming to mind. But back to Ouran High School Host Club,
okay.
I kind of agree with Sam that it shouldn't be harem anime, because 2 is not enough.
Well, hold on. I'm gonna
more like a love triangle anime.
When Sam says 2 is not enough, what do you think of the show Baka and Test, Sam? That's 2, and I would definitely consider that a harem anime because it's got the characteristics.
No, it's a rom-com.
Yeah.
It becomes a romance by that point, like
it's just a love triangle
kind of deal.
Because by your definition, if we can use 2, because then technically, this is why, as I say it, I don't know if anyone here has seen My Teen Romantic Comedy Snafu. That has maybe 3, 4 if you read the light novels tops, but it's not even close to being a harem anime, because it's, as I said, it's one of those, it's missing a lot of the tropes that typically are associated with harem anime. One being all the girls are clearly interested in the guy. They make it normally overtly clear.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those, in Ouran High School Host Club, it's like, there's a tease maybe one maybe here or there outside of the main 2. Like you said, there was once, but it's like, it's never explored at all. It's like, we just teased it and then we're never going to address it again. Almost like they're trying to check a box.
I hate the idea of using tropes to define the genre or subgenre of a particular piece of work, because it gets in the way of creativity in how to express that particular subgenre. If I read a light novel or manga or watch an anime, and it's literally just trope after trope after trope in one particular subgenre. It just feels like I'm watching someone go down a list of tropes for that particular thing and just check it off like a robot. It's not particularly interesting because tropes are tropes because they've been done 10,000, 100,000, like a million times over already. I hate it when people try to categorize things by using tropes because it's a helpful indicator of what category something should belong into, but it shouldn't be the only thing that's taken into consideration when you're
Exactly.
trying to categorize.
It's something that's helpful to see where it's categorized in. And I'll put it this way. Here, to help settle this, what makes something a harem anime then? What makes it a harem anime? What makes you look at a show and be like, not even looking at tropes? What's something that makes you look at a show and say, that's a harem anime?
One multiple possible love interests, and that would include anybody who has any particular interest in getting together with the main character, and two, those relationships have to be clearly progressing and going somewhere.
Okay.
I don't care if it's people, 3 people, 4 people, whatever. Those would be my defining criteria.
Okay, that's Tea Leaf, Noah, Joey,
I have to
and
say, okay.
I think that's actually pretty much what I would say. He leaves 2 points. Not really much I think I can add to that.
Oh, yeah, me. I have to say, while I do agree with the general points on the definition of a harem anime, I think the tropes specifically for harem anime are actually really embedded. Like, there are some really obvious tropes that so many harem actually do follow that are just like really prominent within it. Like the fact that seems to be a lot of teasing with any kind of sexual activities, but never actually following through on any of it for the most part, while also having a main character a lot of the time who's just bland, uninteresting, and just either really perverted or really ignorant to the romance actually going on. Those are like some really big tropes within the harem that are really common, I find.
To your first point, part of that is because a lot of harem animes, mangas, light novels, whatever, tend to cross over also with the subgenre known as ecchi, which is essentially softcore porn.
I would say there's also.
I'm essentially not a fan of that.
Essentially.
It's essentially softcore.
I would say there's also crossover with isekai too, when it comes to harem anime.
Oh, definitely.
Because I could think of several off the top of my head. However, going back to Tea Leaf's point earlier about overuse of tropes and whatnot, and we were talking about harem animes, I think everyone can at least agree on this one if you've seen it. My Next Life as a Villainess, All Routes Lead to Disaster. I think everyone could agree that that is a harem anime, number one. Number two,
by definition, the world that the girl gets transplanted into is a romance dating game. So by definition, that would be a harem.
Sure.
That's what harems
hold on. It's
a guy and girl harem. Like every single person shows clear interest in the main character, and they try to progress that relationship.
But that
is a harem anime.
But pausing the conversation on the anime itself, when you were talking about the dating sim game, technically in dating sim games, if we're going to be extremely technical, yes, they are set up to be a harem, but you don't have to play them as such. Is what I'm saying.
But
I have to excuse myself from this conversation. I've never played a dating sim.
Who progresses it as a single monogamous
Doki.
But I will say at least that we can all agree that that anime is number one, a harem. Number two, I think it's done really well. So, and number three, if it does have ropes there, either At least in my mind when I'm watching.
Yeah, I'll have to check the anime out, but I found that I think Harem actually works better within a dating sim game because you actually get the choice, so it makes it that you can actually make the characters better and you can actually choose so you're more satisfied with what's happening versus the anime, which is not, rated X, where you don't get any action and you basically just left in the darkness from what's going to happen with that. And I'm not a fan of ecchi either, so I guess that's on my end personally.
Well, not everyone is a fan of
Hold on, I need to pause
ecchi
this
as
for
well.
a moment. My video is lagging for everyone. Is anyone else having that?
I can see you coordinate just fine, actually, like the lip movement.
Okay. So it's one of those, like, everyone, like Joey and Edwin were lagging like crazy for me.
Oh, really?
I mean, occasionally your video will just become pixelated, but I haven't noticed any.
Sam, are you still recording?
Yeah, I'm. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Ready? Clapper. 3, 2, 1. There you go. So you can.
I have to say though, Joey was basically on mark.
Yeah, it was just really quiet of a clap.
But
so I'm just gonna say this. Sorry about that. We were having video problems. Resuming where we picked off.
I would say,
Edwin, I believe you were explaining your reasoning.
Yeah, Edwin was talking about Ecchi anime, and not every.
Ecchi.
I would say a harem going that route, unless it's done well, I guess it can kind of be considered a little bit of a crutch, in my opinion.
I don't like. This is just my personal opinion, but I don't like the ecchi harems. I feel like it's detracting from the main point of a harem, which is essentially the romance between the main character and his many bitches, to put it in colloquial terms. And softcore porn really isn't necessary to enhance that. It's literally just for
show
and
service.
And I'm not a huge fan of that because I feel like it really detracts from what it means to explore these kind of multi-polyamorous relationships in a fictional setting.
I disagree with
I
that.
also don't like fan service.
So then, what would you think is kind of like an example of a good wholesome harem anime? Because I agree that as I say, a wholesome harem anime is essentially like if our high school host club had more than 2 love interests, I would classify it as a wholesome harem. But there's not enough, in my opinion, to classify it as a harem anime. It's a love triangle anime or rom-com anime. But it's like, have you seen like any sort of like wholesome harem animes?
I mean, crossing over with like the isekais that we talked about last time, How a Realist Hero Rebuilt a Kingdom is probably one of the best examples, because they don't really get into much of the ecchi stuff. They literally just focus on the relationships and the romance and progressing how he deals with having, 5 wives at the end of the most recent novel. So
yeah,
spoiler alert.
Yeah, that's kind of a spoiler alert.
Yeah, how dare you, T-Leaf? You didn't give a spoiler alert. Everyone shame T-Leaf real quick.
But like, that's probably one of like the best wholesome ones that doesn't involve any ridiculous etchiness.
And service. Not a fan of it.
That's not even an anime, really, though. So
yeah, but it is a light novel, and I agree, it's definitely did well. I'm actually struggling to think of wholesome harem animes outside. The only one I can think of is no one's going to agree with me. It's a harem anime because I don't think anyone here has read the light novels, and you won't agree that it's a harem.
Well, say it anyway. That's the whole point of this.
Rising of the Shield Hero kind of becomes a little bit of a harem anime, but it's it's wholesome harem because everything progresses naturally. But there are a lot of love interests by volume 17.
That's fair.
That I would classify it as harem because he's well crossed over the 5 and into like 6, 7, even a little at one point.
I mean, again, that's another with isekai, and like we were talking before, there's a lot of cross with harem and isekai.
Yeah.
They tend to
Because the loser guy that wouldn't do anything in the real world becomes a hero in the next, so it's the perfect opportunity to make him actually popular with the girls, even though he's a loser in the other world.
again.
Bro, I want like a loser. I want an
real world.
isekai
That's
team
what
where a
brings
loser
in the
guy is
fan.
just a loser guy.
Oh, Sam, you mentioned this one point speaking. I wouldn't necessarily, it's called wholesome, but it's interesting. And you made this one point when we were talking about the series. Is it wrong to pick up girls in a dungeon? And you made the one point where the only reason why you're okay with it being, in essence, kind of like a harem anime is because Clyde is there to offset the rest of the dynamic of the group.
Exactly. Okay, so yeah, this is actually something I was going to bring up. How important is it in a harem anime where it's like a main dude to have another guy best friend? Because I feel that is important to have a good harem anime. If it's like one dude and 6 girls, then I'm like, I can't relate to this one dude who has 6 girls. I'll just go watch it for plot and development. But for some reason, when they insert like a best friend, when they insert like a best friend into it, or just like another main guy character, I'm like, you know what? I can get behind this anime. I can relate a little bit to this best friend guy.
Best example is #Klein from SAO.
Wouldn't this best friend have to be less popular than the main guy by default, just so he doesn't walk in on the harem? You know.
Yeah, but because of that, I always find like the best friend here. Like I said, I love Klein, Welf from Dungeon. I find myself liking the best friend character more. Heck, even in the Is This a Zombie, where it's one of those, the dude had more of a harem that hated him. I actually found his weird pervy friend to be kind of endearing. Because you know he's never gonna get, as I say, he's never gonna get some, but he at least knows it. And he acts as a good foil, and because he's a main character and it involved a lot, I actually sort of relate to him. I'm like, you know, man, you're never gonna get some, and I feel bad for you, so because of that, I find you endearing.
Breaking off from that point, there's this one episode in Monthly Girls Nizaki-kun where the two characters are playing the game, and they actually start discussing about the one high school friend that they have that's giving them, the main character in the game that they're playing, the movie tickets, setting them up with the friend. And by the end of that part of the episode, they're crying, going, oh, God, you sacrificed your 3 years of high school by trying to help me get the girl. Why did you have to do this sort of thing? But I wanted to bring up that point because you mentioned it, and when it comes to harem anime, yeah, that does kind of reset the dynamics when it comes to the genre.
I just love the best friend in the harem anime. They're too endearing. Which actually, then flip side, best friend makes the harem anime good. What's a sign you see in a harem anime that immediately makes you go, nope, not watching this anymore. Goodbye. Because I know what mine is.
Softcore porn, aka ecchi. If there's any of that in it, I immediately drop it because I don't need to watch that.
All of them?
Oh man, you missed out on Sugimono then.
See, I haven't watched that many, so I wouldn't know exactly the point, but I do know the fact that there's a lot of fan service going on that just like, and it's fan service in the way like they get right up to the line and then they're like, nope, walk it back. It's basically like teasing you constantly. It's like, you want this? No. You want this? No. And that just annoys me so much.
For me, it's a very whiny, cowardly main character.
Oh, I can see that.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
I keep.
Once you say that, that's just in general, though. I hate it when you have the whiny main character in any sort of show. That's a story for another. That's a topic for another time.
Yeah, I feel like that's
for me, it's one of those
like anime or light novel. Like if the main character is just whiny or like screamy or just like annoying in general, I just don't particularly want to watch it or interact with that series anymore. Like the reason I dropped Black Clover was because the main character was more screamy than the first season of Naruto, and I'm not about that.
Yes.
I'm going to table the main character discussion because I feel like we can use that for podcast number 3. on main characters and why we hate and love them.
I would say what turns me off for harems is a little bit of the ecchi. I'd say the majority of them, especially if they, throw it at you in the first 5 minutes of the first episode. But some of the cringe when it comes to the plot and development and everything. Tea Leaf, to your point, there's probably like 1 or 2 exceptions with ecchi that, as my brother said, it's so bad, it's good, and you want to watch it. And Sam, I think you know which series I'm talking about, right? High School DxD.
Nope, spelled out for me.
High School DxD.
High School DxD.
And How Not to Summon a Demon Lord fall into those categories.
How Not to Summon a Demon Lord. That's a good one. Well, it's a bad one, but it's also a good one.
I watch those as memes. Because that's what they are. They are giant walking memes. Because as soon as a harem anime starts introducing ecchi, it becomes a giant meme. Because if you actually wanted to watch like cartoon characters fucking, then go watch hentai or porn. Like there is no reason for you to be sitting here watching this harem anime if that is what you wanted to get out of it.
What if I don't want to be masturbating right now?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm about to say,
what if I just want to watch it casually?
It could be like a specific kink, though. A specific kink of just watching them get close,
I mean, we're about to have a full-ass conversation about your jacking off habits.
This is an intervention.
As your friend and having your brother here, I think that is a conversation that we would all rather avoid.
We can
take it off.
Conversation forward on the stuff. I showed this at the beginning of the video. And I think this would be a good thing to kind of roundtable around. I'll start, and then we'll go Edwin, Noah, Tea Leaf, and we'll finish with Sam. I can say for sure, and I found this just by accident, the first harem anime that I watched was this one here, Samurai Harem. And this was when I just first started, expanding some of my anime interests. And I didn't even really recognize the term harem at the time, and I happened to watch that. And that's kind of what I liked the series. It advanced plot. It was decent on it, non-ecchi. And I guess that's kind of probably what set my standards when it comes to watching harem anime initially. So, Edwin, how about you? What was the first harem series that you remember watching or that kind of set the standard for other harem animes that you'd like to watch or turn off after the 5 minutes?
It's kind of hard. I've seen snippets of all of them. The first I ever heard of it was actually people on YouTube discussing the whole thing of the tropes. But I think the first thing that I got into that actually started using those tropes was actually Konosuba with the 3 girls, basically to the 1 guy. And it was done ironically in a lot of ways. They were very tongue-in-cheek about it, which I kind of liked. So that was, but I think the next one was with Sam, actually. And I believe it was like this one with a monster army and this one guy who's a doctor. I forget the name of that, though.
Oh, Monster Girl Doctor.
Noah, how about your first harem for you?
My first one was actually, I think, probably considered one of the forefathers of harem anime is Tenchi Muyo. It wasn't super over the top ecchi, but it had some in there.
Okay, so I'm gonna sound like an idiot here. I have not heard of that anime, Noah.
What?
I haven't heard of it either.
It's not particularly mainstream.
Enlighten us.
It's rather old.
I'm willing to admit I'm sometimes a casual, and by sometimes I mean I am
casual all the time.
It's
Tenchi Muyo
is anime, but it is what, like early 2000s, late 90s, something like that.
I think early to mid 90s was when like the first OVAs were released.
So it was really old.
Tenchi basically just means like useless. Okay.
I mean, if we're considering Oran, I would say Oran High School Host Club. But if we're not, then probably Demon King Daimo or How Not to Summon a Demon Lord. I hated Demon King Daimo. I would not recommend watching it. It got way too ecchi way too quickly.
I hated it too. I agree. Horrible show.
How Not to Summon a Demon
Lord
or
horrible?
No, it was
horrible.
Terrible.
Hold on, Teely, if you want to go on a rant on how bad that show was, Demon King Daimao,
You can start. Like,
I would love to go on a rant. Okay, so straight up, this is as I say. This is the one Joey, you know me. I normally give an anime like the good old 4-episode try,
Yes.
right? And normally after that, and even sometimes I'll keep watching because I'm like, okay, I'm invested even there, but I'll already know how I feel. This is one of the few animes I stopped watching. I do not do that often. I legitimately stopped watching, and it's one of those, I don't mind the ecchi stuff, actually. I'm okay with it. It's when they started making the way too many innuendos, and I turned it off because I'm like, I might as well just be watching porn at this point.
yep.
Specifically, the scene that did it for me was the sea cucumber episode.
Oh,
When it's one of those, they decided to have that thing where the girl just starts stroking the sea cucumber, and it's one of those, you know that what that's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a big dick right there, and she just starts stroking that sea cucumber, and then it squirts all over her, and I'm like, okay, why am I not just watching porn at this point? It's one of those, and I was in a college dorm at the time. I had like the volume up, and I'm like, I'm lucky that my neighbor is a weeb as well. Otherwise, he'd be being like, what the fuck is this guy watching? Is he watching porn in the middle of the night?
Was this freshman year, or when was this?
This was sophomore year.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, yeah.
It's one of those, I'm just like, you know, at this point, it's as you said, I'm like, I should just be watching porn at this point. I'll go.
Yeah, and
that's the.
Whether
That's a
that
huge
is
issue.
what I did or did not do
I-
afterwards is up to debate. It was not. I think that's when I then discovered Beelzebub instead, and that's a good show that I'll talk about later. But
it is.
T-Leaf, why do you hate Stephen King? I explained my reasons, but
Again, it got way too ecchi way too quickly. Like, it's just not. If you're going to make a harem anything, focus on the relationships, not on like trying to force your characters to have sex. Like, that's
Make it a good
if
roadmap.
you're going to do that. Just make it a hentai, make it a porn, make it something not harem, because it becomes not harem at that point, and some people just don't want to be watching that.
Make it.
I do think that is
game.
something that is very clear, the distinct difference between ecchi and harem. And for me, the anime that I actually use to set the bar does a wonderful combination, does actually I think a decent job of both. Sugamono, or as we like to say, guy wants to fuck his blanket, but it was a well done, as I say, it didn't take itself seriously. Because it knew what it was doing. It knew that it was both an ecchi and a harem, and because of that, it just nailed on the comedy one after another. I was laughing. I was crying. I watched it with Joey. We had to pause it because it broke us. We were laughing our asses off. We had to pause the episode because we just got broken, especially when he's at one point where it's just like, well, guess I'm dead. As he's falling from the thing, he's just like, well, guess I'm dead here. This is fine.
I mean, that's the thing about ecchi animes for me, is I never take them seriously because they're literally all walking memes. Like, they are literally just giant memes for people to make fun of because they're not supposed to be like real situations.
Actual things happening. Yeah, I feel like ecchi has to be ironic.
Is a giant walking meme in like the ecchi category. Like, name an ecchi show and 90% of it will probably just be for memes.
I will say what Edwin said earlier on the harem irony being Konosuba, how they take the genre and they flip it on its head with Kazuma initially trying to, it's like, oh, all female party, and then when it's going on, oh my god, this fucking female party, no.
To be fair, though, it's one of those, what's weird is, as you said, it's still a harem done well because everything develops and slowly over time the relationships actually develop. And I think that's actually kind of what you said. That's the key difference between harem and ecchi is harem, the relationships actually develop, whereas ecchi, they don't, which makes me sort of wonder on our own. I might have to rethink my stance on R on high school. Shit.
Anyway, back to
with like that definition, as we've been talking, I'm like, shit. It's starting to sound like a harem, even with two people. Cause it's one of those developing can be falling in and out, and now I'm feeling like I can understand why it's a harem. I still don't, but I can understand why you would say it is now, at least.
The thing about Konosuba that a lot of people don't understand is that Konosuba itself is a gigantic parody of every single genre that it crosses into. Like, the isekai genre, like, he doesn't get run over by a truck, he gets killed out of shame because he could not outrun a tractor, whatever the fuck it was. Like, the harem gets flipped on its head, like, most of the tropes in essentially the D&D system get flipped on their head in it. It's just a literal walking satire parody of every single trope that it could possibly be, and it is glorious.
The succubi are actually prostitutes instead of just like demons.
Speaking of monsters, this is something I wanted to bring up, and this is now moving away from harem into more the ecchi a little bit. What are y'all's thoughts on Monster Girl harem animes? Like Monster Girl, as Edwin brought up earlier, Monster Girl Doctor, Monster Girls, or Monster Musume, I think it's called.
Yeah.
I can't be the only one who's seen these. I refuse to believe that I'm the only one who watched it.
I was the one that told you to watch it, Sam, so...
I watched a couple episodes of a lot of those, but again, because they're so ecchi, I either was watching them ironically as a meme or just outright stopped because it's essentially just softcore porn at that point, and if I was interested in that kind of thing, I would be watching more adult-rated videos rather than Japanese cartoons.
I would think that...
I find...
Yeah, go ahead, Edwin.
I actually kind of find it funny just to watch the, Monster Girls and see the Monster Boys, because it's always funny how much more monstrous the guys are versus the girls who are basically just humans with slightly animal features on them.
I would say when it comes to the Monster Girls ecchi type anime stuff, I haven't actually seen any that I can think of off the top of my head.
Oh, we know what we're doing to you then later today.
Shut up. But I will say, ecchi-wise, I think it's... I'm going to use the term as in everyone knows it. Everyone should watch it at some point, just so that way it's an established thing and everything. I think a quintessential ecchi anime is High School of the Dead. Honestly, yeah. I think everybody...
I would not say that's harem. I would say it's ecchi.
That's what I said. I think it's a quintessential ecchi that everyone should watch because there's something about it that you will be able to enjoy somehow in some way.
Let me
put
it
do it in public.
Let me put it this way. There is a reason High School of the Dead is considered one of the most prolific mainstream animes to come out in the late 2000s. There's a lot of animes like that are considered either classics at this point because it's been 10 years, or just must-watches in their particular categories. We listed some isekais last time. So I would definitely consider High School of the Dead as one of those must-watches for the ecchi category.
I'll throw something out there about High School of the Dead. There's 3 quick things when it comes to this stuff, and here's some things that are kind of out there that no one may think of to think about when they're watching, and this is why they should give it a chance and watch it. One of the first panels that I went to when Otakon was still in Baltimore was anime physics. And in one of the episodes of High School of the Dead, there is the bullet that goes through. Boobs do this. Let me do this, so that way the bullet passes it. And the first part of that panel was explaining how fast were those boobs having to go in order for that bullet to pass between them and the boobs to do a squish. That was one interesting thing about it.
panel. And I think the final calculation was something like 5 or 6 times the speed of sound.
Something like that. Additionally, Additionally, for the longest time, one of the bars there on Pratt Street would hold the High School of the Dead drinking game where anyone could come in between these hours. Anytime a shot of panties was shown on the screen, everybody had to drink. Needless to say, you probably were not getting past a couple episodes once you were doing that. And of course, High School of the Dead came out during the time when everybody fucking loved zombies. And of course, it's a zombie-killing anime. So even if you don't like it for the ecchi or anything, it's still a bloodbath of kill the fuck out of zombies, too. So,
and I'm going to divert the topic because you said something that I want to capitalize on. With just the panty shot, Tea Leaf, you've been very sort of adamant with, like, if it's ecchi, if it's not done well, just go, instead of you watch it for the memes, that sort of thing. What would you consider is tasteful? As in, this can be included and you won't immediately be like, ecchi trash.
Shokugeki, of course. I've watched every single episode of every single season. I have read the entire manga, and I absolutely fucking love it.
Which show?
It's ecchi.
Yeah, that's like super ecchi.
Food Wars, Shokugeki.
Food Wars,
It's absolutely completely ecchi, but I love it because the focus is not specifically on the etchiness. There's a whole wealth of other things around it that the story follows that are more important than that.
Edwin, how about you? What's tasteful, quote-unquote, ecchi, I guess?
It's going to be hard since I'm not a fan of fan service in general, but one show that I actually started thinking about when we actually got talking about all the tropes was actually Kill la Kill. I just kept thinking about all those intentional shots. The whole thing was, again, a parody of this sort of thing where everyone is, of course, stripping down just to fight better, and the whole show's about clothes and the power clothes.
Hi, everyone. Once again, Sam's having recording issues. Edwin, you were talking about Kill la Kill?
Kill la Kill. Basically, it's a really good parody based on clothes, and even go into saying this whole religious feel about how clothes makes humans and how ever since the birth of humanity was due to clothes, and they just constantly have to strip down, show panty shots. Basically, it's even do softcore porn in the middle with the mom and the daughter for some reason.
Another one that I really like, which
I had wiped that from my memory, and you just reminded me it happened.
another not so much ecchi but very fan servicey anime that I absolutely love, and I would probably rank it as my favorite anime of all time, would be Fairy Tail. And for those of you that know it, there is an enormous amount of fan service, and the best thing about it though is that it's equal fan service, because on the female side you have people like Lucy and Erza that like literally just lose their clothes every other episode. On the other side you have characters like Natsu and Gray who also lose their clothes every other episode. So there's a ton of
Gray Abzo.
Yeah, but they're like, but
I actually like that because I never noticed.
It's done well because they never actually focus on that. Like, the focus of the anime is more on the storylines, the plot arcs, rather than, oh, hey, this character is losing his clothes.
I actually like that they even explained why Gray has that habit in his backstory.
Yeah.
I like it because it's part of the personality. I think the only one where it's a little bit more obvious that it's fan service is, Erza, because, the less armor, somehow she gets stronger, but everyone else I actually found I didn't actually even notice it was fan
It's
service.
like Bikini Warriors.
I find that pretty cool.
Yeah, no.
Bikini Warriors is 100% ecchi. Don't get me started on Bikini Warriors.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But we knew what we were getting into when we talked about Bikini. Wait, actually, for those of you who haven't seen Bikini Warriors, it's there on YouTube. Bikini Warriors, you can just go watch it on YouTube. It's like there in full. They're like quick, like 3-minute episodes of whatever. where it's just like less armor equals more armor.
I mean, if we're going to talk about that, then I can't not mention Keijo. Because Keijo is the literal definition of ecchi, where somehow having boobs and a gigantic butt gives you magic powers to knock other people off of this platform in water. And it is the most ridiculous anime I have ever watched.
Is that the wrestling one?
A real life sport as well.
I'm about to say it's a sport.
It's real.
Yeah, but I don't understand how magically having boobs and a giant ass is supposed to.
Maybe it'll be in the Olympics. It could be in the Olympics, Steely. Then you can watch it live.
One genre of harem that we didn't talk about, like harem and this, is harem and mecha, actually. And
harem and
not
Infinite Stratos. I don't know.
Infinite Stratos is a harem and a mecha.
I guess.
So
yeah, but I mean,
I guess
mecha's really kind of
talk about it because Infinite Stratos, not gonna lie, isn't all that good.
What? I love it.
I'm just saying, as a genre crossover, there is still stuff that's harem and mecha. For the most of the time, if we're thinking harem, it's harem real world or isekai. I'm saying harem doesn't just stay to those; it does cross over into other genres as well. Like I said, with mecha in Infinite Stratos.
So.
Yeah, man, but just because it exists doesn't mean we should talk about it. That's like if when we ever do the Rule 34 episode, which would be for podcast 34 if we ever get that high. That's like saying Rule 34 in Pokemon. It exists, but you shouldn't go looking for it.
We're not doing a hentai episode. I am vetoing that right now.
Yeah, we'll just exclude you from it. I guarantee Haley, when she's finally available to do a podcast, will hop at the opportunity to do a hentai episode.
The statement will just be, I do not like...
Will. It'll probably just be the three of us, though, Sam. Me, you, and Haley.
Yeah, for our viewers who don't know, we actually have a sixth person. That's why we're always in a 5. There's supposed to be a sixth person, all the way on the other side tea leaf, but she's busy all the time doing homework.
Which is what Joey's supposed to be doing today.
He has a life.
Yeah, that's what Joey's supposed to be doing.
One day, maybe we'll get a life too. For now, this is our life. Talking to each other.
Yeah, okay, so let's do a little bit of a closing remarks then, as we did with isekais, because we can cut it a little early this time. So for closing remarks I'll give mine first, then you can go around. I learned something today. I actually learned something today talking with you guys. That's one of those. I used to kind of correspond harem with ecchi, but now it's one of those. I guess kind of with mainly tea leaves thing. I now kind of classify harem as more of multiple parties, but the relationships actually progress at least in some way, even if it's not a lot. They can there's at least some kind of progression. Whereas ecchi is more like, we're giving this character a lot of women because we want to show off the cleavage all the time, and the relationships never really progress. I'm trying to think of it, what is it? Something that I used to kind of classify as harem was that god-awful Demon King thing, because I used to correspond, but now I'm like,
now, I guess.
I might be remembering incorrectly, but I don't feel like those relationships really progress at all.
It did actually,
and that's just pure ecchi to me now.
They actually
you have relieved the bad harem vibes from me for a moment, and I hold harem in a slightly higher regard now, Teely. You can pat yourself on the back for that today.
Teely, your final thoughts.
Like Sam said, here's the thing. Harem animes should, in my opinion, focus on the relationship and the romance of the main character and his or her side bitches, whoever they are. And that relationship needs to progress through the storyline, whereas ecchi focuses more on the softcore porn. And if you're just going to watch ecchi for the sake of watching ecchi, go watch porn instead. Watch ecchi for the memes, watch ecchi to make fun of it, watch ecchi ironically, but you really shouldn't be watching it seriously and thinking, oh, this is real life. There's going to be 6 people that are somehow magically interested in this one loser dude who doesn't have any abilities or value to anyone.
With the exception that he has a big dick. If he has a big dick, you can suddenly see all the reasons. Edwin?
I basically made the same revelations as Sam. Basically found that harem can be more than just ecchi. But then I'm finding myself still not liking the genre still because I don't really care for romance either. So it's kind of a lose-lose for me unless I watch it ironically. And I don't like ecchi. I find the exact tea least words, or might as well just be watching the actual hardcore if I was really that into it. It's just a tease at that point.
Noah.
It's a very interesting discussion.
Oh, I'm actually kind of part of the fan base that enjoys the ecchi more for the comedy than for the
there are still some
you're
ecchis I
among
like.
the bad boys.
I'll accept
That makes
it.
sense.
It's good, ironically.
I think a lot of the ecchi really digs into the comedy, and I really enjoy that. But there are some parts where it does get over top, like in Demon King Daimyo. But I mean,
I see that now.
but for instance, Prison School. Any writer that can write like a 5-minute speech about how butts are superior to boobs and keeps my attention is definitely a very talented person right there.
Yeah, I'll say this. This is something we didn't cover that we might cover at a later point. There is a difference between anime ecchi and light novel ecchi. As you said, for some reason, light novels ecchis do it a lot better than anime. I do not know why. I don't know how. You can probably explain that better than I can, Noah.
So to close this out, I'll say, from the time that I've started watching anime, the harem genre has at least evolved, and I think we can all kind of agree that when someone used to say, "Oh, I really like harem anime," it was very much a lot of a "Oh my God, eye roll" sort of thing. Or if a series like that was mentioned, it was very, you're generic, all that other kind of stuff. But the thing is, I think the harem anime genre has actually evolved. It's become more divergent. The storytelling with it has become better. And as we discussed, there are some non-typical anime examples of harem that have done very successful, and that if you were to point out that fact to someone who had watched it, they would have gone, wait, really? That is? And it's like, yes, it is. So I think when it comes to the harem aspect, at least, I've seen it evolve as well. And with the ecchi one, like I said, my closing thing, comedy and the memes, as everyone has said. High School of the Dead, quintessential ecchi that if you're only going to watch one, watch that. So,
Bikini Warriors.
100%. That's something I think we can all enjoy that. Even though some of us may not like ecchi, 100% when it comes to comedy, I feel like there's rarely any better than ecchi.
Unless it's ironic. Ecchi is good for the ironic. Bikini Warriors and Monster Girl Doctor.
And it doesn't have to be, and to be a harem, it doesn't have to be ecchi. It can be wholesome.
So,
before we sign off, I'm very proud of all of you. Before we officially sign off, we didn't talk about the SAO harem. I'm proud of all of you for not doing that.
No,
we're not even going to discuss it. I'm just saying how proud I am of all of you for not talking about the SAO harem. We would have gone on about that for an hour. If you're interested in hearing us talk about SAO, there's a clip on our YouTube channel. You can listen to it there.
SAO took up a lot
briefly, but the SAO harem does deserve a much longer, in-depth conversation than we can.
Yeah, that deserves a whole podcast on itself.
Future episode.
Ronye.
On that, we're gonna sign off. See you guys next time.